your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. 8.6 beer. Intense by nature. And Xhekaj. If the last time you went to Xhekaj was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to Xhekaj. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on a Wednesday night. It's 1 minute past 10 o'clock, and the Montreal Canadiens lost by a score of 3-2 in Ottawa. And we'll get to the game in just a minute. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Like me, and 8.6 beer, intense like me by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. And Xhekaj, if the last time you went to Xhekaj was when Knuckles and I used to work together, well, it's time you go back to Xhekaj because the menu will surprise you. I've been doing podcasting now for about 2 years, and I have to tell you, not much makes me nervous anymore, but I have this kind of nervous energy to me tonight. A nervous excitement. Why? Because my buddy and I haven't worked together in just over 11 months, I think. And yeah, we still talk on the phone every now and then. And we talk about the Habs and we talk about life and how we're both doing. But we don't do it on the air. And now we have a chance to do it on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, and on Twitter Live. He is my buddy. He's one of the players I idolized growing up, along with the Flower. It was Chris Nilan after Guy. And he's the host of the Raw Knuckles podcast. Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Tony. How's it going, pal? Good to see you.
Very good. Maybe 2 years later or a year later, but I finally took you up on intermittent fasting. And I don't know if you know that, but today I set a personal record for myself. For many, it would be a walk in the park. But I went fasting 22 and a half hours.
Tony, I can see in your face you've lost weight.
Really?
I'm serious. From the last time I've seen you, I can see you've lost weight. Stick with it. I'm telling you, stick with it. You want to lose weight. Listen, you've been fucking telling me you were going to lose weight since I got back here 10 years ago. It's about time you stuck to your guns. Let's go.
I gotta show you something. I was at an event the other day, and I was talking to someone, and he's about to turn 60 years old, and he's 163 pounds. And I said to him, Paolo, my God, you look good, man. And he said, Tony, I've been doing intermittent fasting for like 10 years. And then he showed me, right? And there's an app, and I signed up, and I pay $5 a month. I don't know if you can see it or whatever.
Yeah, I got it.
And there you have it. And basically, I signed up, and I chose 18 hours of fasting and 6 hours of eating. And I've done 18 hours once, and I did 22, just almost 22 and a half hours today. And my fast will break tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I have a supper tomorrow night with the guys and girls over at the BPM Sports Radio. We're having a Christmas party. And I plan on fasting right until I get to the restaurant. So I'm going to go 5 hours over this tomorrow. So I plan on doing another 22 or 23 hour fast tomorrow.
You must be just a miserable bastard when you're not eating, right?
You know, I'm gonna tell you something. I have an energy like you can't believe.
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see.
Yeah.
You know, when you eat all the time at odd hours and you're not have any discipline, you get sluggish. You feel like shit. You're like, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good for your health either. But listen, I'm telling you, you stick to this, Tony.
Yeah.
It's gonna start eating the fat off your body. You'll be like, oh my God. I'm telling you, I got up to 240 pounds there when I had that polymyalgia rheumatica. I was on prednisone. I looked at myself. I mean, how the hell did you get like this? Part of it was a prednisone. Part of it was sitting around watching Netflix during the pandemic, and part of it, was being lazy. And I finally said I got to do something. I did the fasting. I stuck to it, stuck to my guns, and it just came on me. I got down to 215 again.
Isn't it something nuts? We're 4 minutes in, you already used an F word and you said shit, and we're not going to get in trouble. We don't have anyone to answer to now. Freedom 55.
We won't have Chris Berry running down the hall after us. Oh my God. I think that's probably one of the things people are most surprised about me. They thought I was going to be dropping F-bombs all the time on the air and stuff, or swearing, slipping, saying. I never did. I didn't have a problem with it, But listen, we're not that. I mean, I'm not F-bombing all the time, but listen. Sometimes I talk like if I was in the locker room. It depends who I'm with. We got Arber Xhekaj coming out tomorrow, and man, did we have some laughs. What a great kid! I love the kid. I had dinner with him at an event at the Bell Center. And they sat an old timer with a young guy, and they sat him with me, which was awesome. Okay. I just love the way they did that. And we had a great talk. What a great young man, nice young man, great story. He's a little old, right? He's old school. He could have played back in the 80s. He would have been unbelievable.
He's a throwback, Nux. He's a gladiator.
He can play. I love it. He can play, and he is tough. He don't screw around. Got to plant his feet a little more in them fights. He's gone down a couple fights here. Got to plant them feet a little bit better. But I love that he can play, and I know one thing: his teammates love him, and they're glad he's in the lineup. Yeah,
this is what you can look forward to on the Raw Knuckles podcast. Here's a little teaser of Knuckles and Arber Xhekaj.
Costco thing, though. I need to. It's not like you were like shooting slap shots off a dumpster and lunch break, and they just like you were just like right, like you were like. Can you clarify what the Costco thing was? Yeah,
man. Everyone thinks that I didn't play hockey for the whole year. I just worked at Costco, which is ridiculous because it got blown way out of proportion, and it's pretty funny where it's came. So I don't really care. But
does anyone like chirp you for it? Like, hey, we got clean up on aisle 6. Go clean.
A couple guys on the ice were like, go back to Costco. Like, I think Cassian told me that one time, so it was pretty funny. But
he wishes you were at fucking Costco that night. No question.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that podcast drops tomorrow, and look, Knuckles' podcast, Raw Knuckles, and for Tim Stapleton, you can watch it, of course, on all the same social media apps that you can watch this one here. So they obviously have their YouTube channel, and you can follow the Raw Knuckles podcast as well on Twitter. You can follow it on Instagram, and you can listen to them on Google, Apple, and Spotify. Personally, myself, I love watching them. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. To you, the listeners, to you, the viewers, full disclosure here. My favorite podcast, besides the one that I host, of course, myself, is the Raw Knuckles podcast. So, Nux, I think it's. Listen, and I'm not just saying that because I know you can give me a beating, but you've had guests on that are truly exceptional. You've had Jeff Gordon on the podcast. You've had Kent Hughes on the podcast. You've had Marty St. Louis on the podcast. You had Jordan Harris on the podcast. You're going to have Arber Xhekaj on the podcast. You had other players as well. You even had Joe Pavelski on the podcast. You had Blake Wheeler on the podcast. Suzuki, Caulfield. The list goes on and on.
Jeff coming next week. Going to join me next week, which is going to be fun. I think it'll be fun for him because there's a little heat off him right now. I think there was some heat on him before, and now that he's kind of, honestly, he brought a guy from Boston in to straighten the Canadiens out. Let's face it. And
that's pretty funny, but he did, yeah.
He did, and it is pretty funny. But listen, and Ken Hughes, a guy who was a transplant Bostonian. He's from here originally. There's no question about it. But the two of them together, I think, are going to do brilliant things. I think they really got this thing going in the right direction. I love what they've done. You can't, you certainly cannot, go at the record of Jeff Gorton in Boston as a GM that was standing in until Chiarelli was going to take over. The moves he made were incredible in Boston. Bringing in Chara, getting Rask in a trade for Rakoff, drafting Marchand, Kessel. He did an unbelievable job in those 8 months. Then he left. He goes to New York, and look what he does there. So God bless him. I really think that team, that tandem of those two, such good hockey minds, a great negotiator in Ken Hughes. You're not going to see some of the frivolous contracts that we saw during the Bergevin era. Once they get that all cleaned up, and they've done a hell of a job being able to manage it so far and putting a pretty good goddamn team on the ice. A team that competes, a team that is showing promise, and they have I think it's just a fabulous young core of players, and it's going to get better.
Yeah, Nux, I want to tell you something, hearing you speak and seeing you here on the screen, and I'm watching you as we're doing this. It doesn't take much to make me emotional, but this is really bringing back a lot of memories with you. Once again, we haven't done this in 11 months, and God knows how much I missed you. I'm pretty emotional about it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, I hear you, Tone. I had a blast working with you over at that place we used to work, that building. And, when we would get together, you'd be on, I'd come in, I'm getting ready for my show, and we'd be getting ready to do Habs lunch. And, we had good banter going back and forth. It was awesome. We got, it was something I think that they station certainly misses now, but what can you do? We're gone. You're gone. I'm gone, and we're off on our own. I certainly, I know I bump into a whole bunch of people that say, "Oh my God, I don't even listen anymore." I loved hearing you and Tony. So listen, I'm sure there's tons of people that maybe just say that, but there's a lot of people that And listen. I don't know what the numbers are, but numbers don't lie. I'm sure they look at them, and I'm sure there's somewhat of a difference. But you know what? That's in the past, and time to move ahead. And that's life.
I listen. I've never held back, and I know I'm supposed to be probably politically correct, but with all due respect and all kidding aside here, and I'm being serious. It hurts me to see where they're at right now. And I know no one will admit it, but I too talk to a lot of people on the street, and, it's not normal in any company that 10 years before it was 10 times better. I mean, that's just not the way companies are supposed to go, right? With time, look at the Canadiens. The Canadiens, they're going through a rebuild, and they want to be much better, and they want to sustain. And I'm willing to bet that 7 or 8 years later, the Canadiens are going to be in a much better spot than they were when Jeff Gorton took over. And that's what you call progress. And you're supposed to continue with that. Mind you, in sports, at one point, you're going to go down because you have a cap, and you only have a window. But in media, you don't really have a cap, and you don't have a window. You can be sustainable as long as you want, as long as you make the right moves. And anyway, you're right. It's in the past. We move forward. And you liking the podcast life?
Yeah. Listen, I want to certainly. I know you've monetized yours, and you've got it going pretty good. I'm not there yet. We're getting close, but be nice to make some money with it. And we're getting there. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy having the guests on. I'm a little different. Listen, the Spittin' Chicklets, they were the first guys in. They got a great podcast. What they have good rapport. They got that locker room feel, and they're the podcast in hockey. That's it. They've done a great job, those guys. They're entertaining, they're funny, edgy, all that stuff. I never wanted to be like Spitting Chicklets. I wanted to be Chris. I wanted to, have good conversation, have fun, talk to guys, find out where they're from, how they made it, where they made it, and what, just how it is in the NHL now. So I think I achieved that. We have some fun. I'm not looking to embarrass anybody, but I'm going to ask some of the tougher questions with guys and, not hold them accountable, but there's answers people want to know about certain things, and I'm going to ask those things. And I think I'm respectful of the guest when it comes to those things. I don't, like I said, I'm not looking to embarrass anybody. I'm looking to have good conversation, have fun with it too. So yeah, it's been good. I enjoy it.
Mike on YouTube says, merge Knuckles and the Sick podcast together. Knuckles, so you and I have been talking for a while. We know that people have been asking for us to do this together. And it took a while. And I think we came to an understanding that we probably can't do it all the time because I know you're pretty busy. But I know, like I told you, you have an open invitation to join me on the podcast anytime. And in turn, I'm going to be hopefully appearing on the Raw Knuckles podcast, right?
Oh, you will.
You help me, I help you. And, I want you to do great, and I want me to do great. I want both of us to do great. And I think we're on our way. So, everyone's going to be happy here.
I love your shirt. Not everyone is replaceable. Yeah, I love it. And I couldn't agree more. Yeah, there's only one Tony. There's no question about it.
Well, and there's only one Knuckles. And look, I think the proof is in the pudding, but it's funny. Do you remember Nux? And when the Flower passed away, you and I walked back to our cars, which were parked in the Bell Center garage.
Yeah.
And when we were walking, that was back in April. I resigned on the 27th of May. And if you recall, I told you, and I don't know if you believed me back then, I said, Nux, I'm going to be leaving soon. And I said, I'm going to do my podcast thing, and we're going to go from there. And I don't know if you believed me back then, but I mean, I'm sure you can remember that now, right?
Yeah. And again, I didn't know the whole story, what was going on with you. Listen, I think a lot of people didn't know what was going on with me. Where was Chris? Everybody's asking me. And the station didn't give any inclination of what was going on. People were wondering. There's listeners every day that were used to hearing me, and then they didn't hear me anymore. What's going on? And we couldn't say anything, don't say anything. And then when they fired me, they didn't want me to say anything again. Like, oh, please don't say anything. You be careful. It's a small world, blah, 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 this radio business. And like, it's like, that's the last thing on their mind was they could have gave a shit about me. They were just worried about what I was going to say. Now, I didn't say anything. Okay. I didn't come out and say anything. I didn't mouth off in the newspaper, anything like that. What I did do though, is I posted the letter I got saying I was terminated and fired by, I don't even know, what's that guy's name? Not Chris Berry, the other guy.
Hold on a second.
I forget his name.
What's his name? I forget.
Yeah. Anyway, whoever the guy, some guy from some corporate fucking dweeb. And what's that, honey? Yeah, Gray. Was it Gray? Something Gray? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I got that letter, and I took a picture of it and I posted it on Twitter. I said, for those of you who were wondering where I've been, here you go. So apparently they weren't too happy with that. I spoke to someone the other night and they said, geez, we were talking about, getting let go and all that. And, I got the inference from this person that, oh, maybe you could have been back, but because I posted that thing. I mean, grow the fuck up. Like, here's a guy, in the corporate world, and because I show a letter of termination on there, what, did I fucking embarrass that guy or something? So anyway, I'm I'm done. And even if they ask me to come back, Tony, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves, to be honest with you. I would. I would. You know?
All right. So, I mean, that's Knuckles' story. And, he stuck to his guns and he didn't want to get vaccinated and he didn't. And,
Tony, apply for a medical exemption. So basically they told me, fuck you. We don't care about your medical issues. We don't care about your medical issues. You better get vaccinated or you'll never work here again. Well, fine. So they didn't care about me, really. And I don't give a shit about them.
Yeah, but you got to understand, Chris, not being vaccinated, you couldn't be doing the show from home or doing it in studio with one person who was going to be 12 feet away from you. But you were welcome to show up to the 20th anniversary party with 500 people there.
How fucking stupid is that? They fire you and then, come to the anniversary party and have fun with us, after you get fucking, see you later.
No, the most ironic part is the night of the anniversary party, you went to a concert with 15,000 people and you came home and you were fine. And about 20 people got COVID at the party.
I know. Really? How's that? And they're all fucking vaccinated. Woo! All
right. Okay. So that's Knuckles' story. For those for those who want to know mine, basically, I loved what I was doing. I really missed the people. I really missed the listeners. I made Sammy a promise that I was going to grow this podcast as much as I could. When I saw that the radio station in Vancouver, in Winnipeg, and in Hamilton closed down on the same day within about an hour and a half, I thought we were next. So I called Agnello that day and I said, I want to come over for supper tonight or come by and see you. And I went over and I said, listen, 3 radio stations closed in the span of an hour and a half. I thought we were going to be next. So, it's all fine and dandy here. We're having fun with the podcast and this and that. Sammy's enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. But let's try and take it a little bit more seriously and let's try and be the best podcast that we can be. And so I made Sammy a promise, and then we started to get some sponsors and some partners, and, we have obligations to them. And, I wanted to grow the podcast as much as I could, but I found I couldn't where I was because I couldn't make any mention of actually having a podcast or, playing some clips of my guests and this and that, which was funny because the Journal de Montréal, which was a direct competitor, would actually talk about my podcast. So the competition would, but I wasn't able to. And so if I wasn't able to talk about my podcast or promote it, and I wasn't able to go live with my podcast because there were other shows that were going live, rightfully so, by the way, I just thought, you know what, if I have to grow the podcast, I cannot grow it with the restrictions. And, so that's it. No one else has restrictions that does a podcast, but then again, they don't really have any views. Okay.
I love it.
Okay, let's talk about the Canadiens. They showed some fight tonight, but that's probably their worst second. That second period was probably their worst period of the season thus far.
Yeah, listen, Tony, and you think there's one guy who knows about penalties? It's me. When you take penalties like they've been taking, and you throw off they had a great first period, and then you throw off the flow of the game. Those penalties screw it up. Guys killing, you're breaking lines up. Guys are sitting, and it throws off the tempo, and it gives that other team an opportunity to get some momentum, and they did. They got a deadly power play, that team. Listen, they scored 17 power play goals. They got 15 even strength goals this year. Like their power play, if they didn't have it, they'd be done. They'd be down with Arizona.
Yeah.
So listen, they got some good players there and dangerous players. So, that second period, they came off the rails. The positives is, they didn't roll over that team, and they come out in the third period and start to take it to them again, fighting off the penalty stuff again a little bit. And the 4 minutes there at the end of the second to Kirby Dach hurt.
Yeah.
Right? And then they come out and they get it to 3-2, and they almost score pulling the goalie. So, this team is right there. When you got such young players like this, a lot of young kids in this organization like they do, man, it takes time to learn how to win consistently, night in and night out. forget about the playoffs. Just in this league, to win night in, night out, to be able to make the playoffs. And they're going to learn. They got to I really love what they have here. They from the coach, I mean, Marty St. Louis, the coaching staff, I think that they're in such good hands, these young kids. And, you know, it's going to take time. And, you know, I don't want to sound like Mike Babcock and it's going to be some pain. But, you know, I think we've gone through the pain.
Yeah.
We're going to watch growth. And I think that's, especially in this fan base here, that's all you can ask for right now. You can't be asking for too much, and I like what I see. I think they're awesome group of guys.
You brought up Marty St. Louis' name, and you know, I love the guy. I think he's the perfect coach for this group right now. At this time, I think he's the one who's going to help them progress and help them develop. It doesn't mean he's perfect, obviously, because there are some things that are bothering me a little bit. I got a text message from a buddy of mine, Paul, tonight during the game, and he said, at any point, is the media going to stand up and call St. Louis on the lack of discipline by his team? So you talked about the penalties, and you've been behind the bench before, and you were a coach and you were assistant coach. How much of that or not is on Marty, in your opinion?
A good chunk of it. You know, I believe he has to certainly put his foot down. And if he hasn't yet, I'd be surprised. I think he's very trusting of his players. He wants to give guys rope. He wants them to be able to flourish and do things. But when it comes to that, you know, Arber tonight getting the kid in the headlock, that's a stupid penalty, right? Yeah. I've taken tons of them. You know, Kirby Doc getting the penalty, and then, you know, the first one questionable. You know, stick that up in the hands. You can't do that anymore. So he's pissed. And then the second penalty, he's pissed again, slams the gate, 4 minutes. So that undisciplined stuff, the coach has to, put a stop to that. And that's up to him. And listen, the players have to hold themselves accountable in there too. Joel Edmonton got to stand up in that room. Suzuki, hey, let's go, boys. You know, it'd be good if it comes from within, but the coach really has to bring attention to it and address it, and then the players better take hold of that and police themselves and say, hey, we got to put a stop to it. So and that's all part of the learning curve, right?
Yeah. Here's the other thing, Nux, that bothers me a little bit, or maybe even more than a little bit. It's the power play. They have the worst power play in the league. They went 0 for 3 again tonight. I think it's the worst power play I've ever seen the Canadiens have since I've been covering this team, which is about 20 years. It's really bad. I expected a lot better with a guy who was a power play wizard, Marty St. Louis. And I know that Alex Burrows is the power play coach, but I worked with you a long time, and you kept telling me, Tony, the coach, the head coach, ultimately is the one responsible.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the power play?
Well, I don't know. I kind of like when he puts 5 forwards out, right? I like that.
Too.
I have a problem with it. He certainly I'm sure other guys have done it, but he does it a whole lot more than anybody. And I like that he goes for it. But I don't know. I can't tell you because, listen, sometimes they gain that zone easy. They get in there. They move the puck around. They try and tee Caulfield up. They get him sometimes. Suzuki, he comes off the top of the circle there, and he pump fakes that pass across, and then he ends up shooting. He scored a few times on that. But it seems you saw Ottawa do it tonight. They were working it up top, trying that one-timer from off the top of the circles. When it didn't work, they took it down low. And Tkachuk certainly is a guy who can work that area really good. They need a guy that can work that down there. Now, Slafkovsky someday can be that guy. Josh Anderson should be able to be that guy right now. Kirby Doc, another guy that should be able to be that guy. Yeah, I don't – listen, sometimes it looks great, and then other nights, but, you know, that's this team. There's growing pains, and that's certainly a growing pain.
I'm with you. The entry plan is good. The face-offs, when Suzuki takes them or Dvorak takes them or Monahan when he's in the lineup, those are pretty good as well. You have a real good playmaker and a guy who can surprise you with a shot with Suzuki. You got a good one-timer in Caulfield and Hoffman. When Drouin's healthy, he is a guy who can pass the puck well. You got big guys like Josh Anderson, like Slafkovsky, like you talked about, like Kirby Dach. They have all the elements for a good power play. Some will say they're probably missing an elite quarterback. I get that. That's a big part of it too.
It is.
But, I just, the one thing is I find Nucks, they move the puck, but they don't move their feet. So they're always in the same position all the time.
They don't switch off a whole lot. And that's something they got to do, that rotation. They get set in their ways. You look at, Ottawa, where they are. They got a Claude Giroux who is like he's incredible. QB with the puck, and Shabbat. They got two guys there that are like wizards with that puck. Can thread the needle. They're good. And certainly DeBrincat, Kachuk, they got a great mixture there. So, Tone, honestly, first full year for this guy, there's growing pains. Those are some of the things you said have to be addressed, and I'm sure they will be. I like where they're at. I like what they're doing. They can certainly get better in the areas, and I'm sure they will moving forward.
All right. I want to talk to you about Slafkovsky because he's been caught with his head down about 3 or 4 times this year. He's an 18-year-old. It's his first year in the National Hockey League. Some say that he probably skipped a step. There was a debate whether or not he should have started in the National Hockey League. He's not the first player, Nucks, early on in his career to get caught with his head down, maybe lack a little bit of experience and stuff like that. It also happens a lot when guys are big because they don't usually exercise the IQ and the vision and keep the head up all that much, because when they were younger, they were always the biggest guy on the team and guys used to bounce off them. They don't bounce off you in the National Hockey League. They're as big as you, as strong as you, and they end up plowing away. But there's something I saw in the hockey game tonight, which if we can bring it up right here, Slafkovsky was about to get decapitated from Watson. Look at that. Let's see if we can see it again.
Yeah.
He was practicing with Adam Nicholas, the skills coach, last week, and they were specifically practicing on stick handling with your head up, taking information, being aware of your surroundings at all time. And so when we talk about development, and you used to talk a lot about all the work they used to do with Claude Ruel after and skating and shooting and all that stuff, look, there's an exercise that worked.
Yeah, and he's going to apply it in the game. Listen, the better coaching he gets, the individual coaching he gets is going to help him. You still have to play on instinct, but every time he's gotten hit, he's not ready. We saw that with Jake Evans early in his career, right? How many times he got dinged?
4 concussions in less than 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, and you cannot trust guys in this league. You can't pass the puck and be like – God, I wish they let you do what they used to let you do. When you move the puck and a guy's going to come at you, you give him your fucking stick, right? You get it up. You don't have to cross-check him, but you get it up and say, come through it and hold it tight. They don't do that anymore. And certainly the other night when he got hit by Shen there behind the net, man.
Yeah.
He made a play and he got his head just like that. But again, 18-year-old kid coming from a big hockey rink where it's not as physical, not as, playing against men all the time. And you're here now and you're going to learn. Listen, I know a lot of talk people say, should he go to the World Junior? Should he go to – listen, I think he's here now. You keep him here, bring him along. I don't think going to World Junior is going to give this kid, go down there and rip it up and then – come back here and all of a sudden, he's going to come and rip it up here. No, it doesn't work that way. I think he's fine where he is. I wouldn't like to see him go anywhere.
But I have a question for you, Nux, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the context that if he goes to the World Juniors, he'll be the most important player on his team. And right now, because of his age and where he plays, he almost comes across as a complimentary player. Doesn't that pressure of saying, hey, kid, try and carry this team at the World Juniors, isn't that good for him to be able to carry his team, be the most important player?
Is it going to do anything for him here? I don't believe it's going to do anything from here. You can go over there and carry all you want. You can carry the show and come back here, and then he's going to be out there against Luke Shen again, and Luke Shen's going to fucking take his head off if he gets a chance. So, going in that big rink, I don't think it's going to help him. I think practicing here with a big team, being with them, playing, and he's going to work his way up. Look, he puts him out there in the power play. He's trying to give him some chance to get his confidence, like Kirby Dach. He brings him here. What a move to put him on the wing. Take some of the heat off him. Get play with Suzuki and Caulfield and get your confidence and get going. He struggled there in Chicago. I think it was a brilliant move by this coach to put him on the wing and get his game going. He got his game going. Maybe at some point you move him to center. You got to see. And again, can he do that job? He was a center coming up. I'm sure he can, but there's time for that. There's going to be time for that.
Speaking of center, Jonathan Drouin was at center tonight, back in the lineup, coming back from injury. He centered the fourth line. Yeah. I don't want to pour it on Nux because we know he's gone through a hard time, and Lord knows, we poured it on quite a bit, you and I about him in the past, but never would I have guessed that his stint with the Canadiens, his tenure with the Canadiens would have been,
of course,
this average. Never.
Listen, I remember back in the day, you were saying, get Jonathan Drouin, we'll have the best power play in the league.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I watched him on the power play in Tampa, and he can thread a pass cross ice. He can thread a pass through two guys, and he was a magician in Tampa. And he had, early on in the league, second or third year, I think he had picked up 54 points. He picked up 14 points, I think, in 17 playoff games. And we were being told that Jonathan wanted to come back home and that Jonathan wanted to play for the Montreal Canadiens. I said, let's let it happen. I mean, I wasn't willing to trade Sergachev by all means, but, I really wanted Drouin with the Canadiens. Never would I have guessed that it would be this so unsuccessful, to the point where watching him not be able to put up points and not be able to carry the mail the way it was expected. I mean, it hurts to see it. It hurts to
watch. Tony, listen, I remember when he came back here, they talked about the pressure of playing his hometown. He said he'd be able to deal with it. And, I've seen so many guys come through here. I played with guys who came here and couldn't deal with it. It's not an easy place to play. And being a hometown kid and coming back, the pressure's even more. The good Chenu, they want to see him do great things, and he struggled. He had a difficult time. Listen, Tone, I don't care. You have all the talent in the world. If you don't have it right here, baby, you ain't going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
And
you can float around. You can make your money and ride off into the sunset. I've seen it. Galchenyuk, young here, scored goals on the power play. He could load up. He never learned the rest of the game. He never applied himself when he didn't have the puck. He didn't make guys around him better. He was terrible defensively. Why do you think he played with fucking 7 teams or 8 teams already in the NHL? Because he never learned that part of the game. He never applied himself that way. It's just, I'll score goals or I'll play offense. The game doesn't work that way. And you certainly have to be able to play a full sheet of ice. And, I mean, if you're scoring every 2 games or every game, you're getting assists or you're scoring goals, you can live with some guys like that, right? You can live with a guy that's going to put points up every night. Well, maybe he's a little weak defensively, so we'll cover for them. We'll help him. But, I like what Marty did, putting him at center. Yeah. And kind of put a little heat on him, made him work. So you're going to have to work tonight if you want to get back in the lineup and stay in the lineup. It put some heat on you. I almost dropped dead, honestly, when I saw him out there. He was down low in his own end. And I said, geez, come on, do this. And, he did all right. But again, we're talking about a guy we're looking at playing offense for this team. And, it's his first game back. We'll see. But I don't see it getting any better for this kid. I really don't. It's sad because there was so much. The expectation was so high. And he certainly had his issues, apparently, away from the rink. And with the game itself and the injuries and all that. But yeah, it's tough to watch. I hate seeing kids have difficult time. Like I had a very good friend here who Doug Wickenheiser, God rest his soul, who had such a terrible time, and I was with him every night having dinner, and would talk to him, and he was struggling, and his confidence was gone. The expectation was so much. He wasn't a French kid. Denny Savard is in Chicago flourishing, and Wick was here. I felt so bad for him.
And Savard was doing his thing. He was doing his thing here at the Verdun Auditorium, of course, in front of everyone, and they passed up on him in the 1981 draft, and Wickenheiser went number 1, and Denny Savard went number 3, if memory serves me well, to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then the first game of the season, Chicago played in Montreal, and Wickenheiser was scratched.
And he lit it up.
And Savard scored a couple of goals, and the rest is history. Nux, when you just said this, you need to have it here. I'll tell you a quick story. 2003 season, the Canadiens had Marcel Hossa. He had played a couple of years with the Hamilton Bulldogs. And I think with Hamilton, he had scored like 19 goals in 37 games. And he came up, he played 34 games with the Canadiens. I think it was the 02 season or the 03 season. He had played anyway, long story short, or the year after. And I saw him score 19 goals in 37 games or whatever in the American Hockey League. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a goal scorer. And maybe I got excited because his family name probably told me, you know what, it's got to be in the genes here. He's got to be a good player. And I said to a Montreal Canadiens player back then, I said, this kid's going to score 20 goals. And he looked at me and he said, how much you want to bet? And I said that he won't, he said to me. And I said to him, I don't know how much you want to bet. I said, take it easy on me. I said, I don't bring home the same money as you do every 2 weeks. And he said, $100. I said, okay, $100, you're on. I don't remember if it was the first season or the second season, but anyway, in the first season, he scored like 6 goals. And the second season, he scored like a goal, and he lasted 15 games, and then he was done. He ended up playing later on in the National Hockey League for the New York Rangers for 2 or 3 years or whatever it was. But then he played the rest of his career, like, in Europe and overseas and all that stuff. And so at the end of the season, I go up to this Canadiens player, and as soon as I see him, boom, $100. And I said to him, I said, I only have one question for you. He goes, shoot. I said, how did you know? And he said, no heart.
You can tell. It doesn't take long to find out if a guy has that, especially if you're playing on the team. And if you're not, and you're viewing it from a distance, you can also tell. And, it's a big part of it. Talent without works is dead. You don't work. All them superstar players, Gretzky, Lemieux, all that, and they put their time in. They had heart. They had, an overabundance of talent, but, they had the heart to go along with it. They wanted to win. They were proud players. They didn't want to fail, and they didn't. Yeah. And there's a lot of guys like that in the league. But, boy, it's difficult to watch when guys when they don't produce, they don't, I guess, reach their expectations, whether it's a fan base, coaching staff, scouts, whoever. But yeah, it's sad.
Knuckles, 1 or 2 things. I've already kept you a long time, but Lord knows I can.
That's fine. I'm good, Tony. I'm fine.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Don't worry. I'll stay as long as you want. As long as you want.
Can I keep you for an hour and a half the way you kept Cat Hughes?
Whatever you want. Whatever. I'm here. I told you.
Okay, good. A special hello to everyone tonight, but a special hello to Jake Gibson, a.k.a. Lorenzo Gemma, and Kim Scullion, who sent me. I went to school with Kim, and we graduated together. And she put on Facebook that she was so excited that you were coming on, Nux. And she sent me something. Hold on a second here. There you go. Kim Scullion with her Chris Nilan poster up in her room.
Oh, God.
All right. So there you have it.
Way to go, Kimmy.
When Kim Scullion. Okay, so when we were in high school, she had your poster up and you were her favorite. So she's pretty excited. Hey, Nux, what did you think of this?
Well, I read the English version online. Pierre sent me a copy of it to my email, and I read most of it. Listen, I think a lot of it was already out there. I think he was, I'll be honest, I think it was a little harsh with Max.
I talked to him about it last night. I said, you basically called Max a bad person. And he said, yeah, well, without saying it, he basically insinuated that, Max was just, a little rich kid, from, well-to-do. And, without saying it, it was, I said, are you trying to tell me he was spoiled and or entitled? And he kind of said, well, you can kind of say that. And he came out and he said that Max is a bad person.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think Pierre, around him, as long as he was, and around the number of players he'd been over the course of his career, which started in 1986 when I was there, when we won the Stanley Cup. I remember he got called up there. I remember I had him to my house for dinner, that kid.
Yeah.
Pierre Gervais.
Told us that.
I used to buy him bottles of wine all the time, and I really loved Jerv. There had to be something between them there, and there was. And I can certainly see how Max would probably piss some people off that way. Yeah. Max is not really I think, with just anybody, a personable guy. I don't know if he was a good teammate because I wasn't out there, but I got the feeling it was not a good teammate. I think Max also put a lot of pressure on himself to score goals, and when he didn't, he was sour. So when you look at all those things, right, should he have been captain? Problem is, it was either him or PK. So Max is one extreme and PK is the other.
Yeah.
And, that whole thing, it was just a recipe for disaster. Either way they went, honestly. You saw what he said about PK in the room. There's not enough air in the room.
Yeah.
It's too much for guys. So I thought he was a little harsh on Max, but that's the way he saw it, and he felt that. Listen, I know Max personally. I wasn't happy when I had him on, and I believe he lied to me on the air about not asking to be traded.
Yeah.
I heard otherwise from a couple different people. So however it was, and I'm a big boy. I can put that behind me. I'm not, and he certainly had a difficult time here at times, but what he did here is score goals for this team when they didn't have anybody to score goals, quite frankly.
Yeah.
How many times he scored over 30 goals?
30 goals, 33, 35, 39. I don't know if there was a year with 37, but I think he scored like 30 plus, like 6 times. Chris, I've said this before. I had a great relationship with Max. He invited me over once. My nephew had to do a high school project or a project in college on concussions, and he said, "Come over," and we showed up with the iPad and stuff like that. We did a charity fundraiser poker game together. It was very accommodating, and I had a real good relationship with him until one day I came out and I said, Max Pacioretty will not be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens come golf tournament next year. He will be traded. And Max didn't take that well. You probably are aware, of course, because he probably mentioned it to you. Marinaro. He wasn't happy with Marinaro. And lo and behold, Max Pacioretty was traded. Late in the night, the day of the Canadiens golf tournament. And he wasn't there for that golf tournament. The golf tournament was on a Monday night. And they started working on the deal on the Sunday at around 6 p.m. or whatever it was. And by midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, the trade was announced. Max Pacioretty got traded to Vegas, and I was right. He still hasn't talked to me, but that's okay. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, that's okay. And again, it's like honestly, all the years he was here, I never really interacted with him. I went to dinner with him. Maybe he came to my house for dinner in the early going. Okay, in his early years when I came back here, him and Katia came for dinner before they had kids. We had dinner. I went out with him one night for dinner, me and him one-on-one. And then I went out for dinner with him before the shower hit with his coach who played hockey with me in college back in Connecticut. So it wasn't like I was with him all the time. I left him alone. I didn't bother with him. And, I certainly had my share of things to say on about him on the radio. And, I don't know if he liked that or not or heard that. I'm sure he did at times. But I put all that stuff behind me. And this summer he was up here with his kids. I heard he was at the rink. The kids were up here playing in a tournament. So I went over and saw him and said hi, talked to him, saw the little guys playing. We had a great talk. And I don't know if it's because the book came out or what, but I've never gotten a Christmas card from Max in all the years I've known him. And a big basket came the other day. And I'm like, God, who's this from? Max and Katia Pacioretty. And they sent a big, biscotti, everything, and bottle of wine, which I don't drink, but I gave to the neighbor, and a nice card. So
that's nice.
That was nice of him. But again, listen, not an easy place. Not an easy place to play. Max, I think, he grew up a privileged kid, and certainly. I don't think he comes across as all that warm a person a lot of times to people. And Pierre, I'm sure, had to deal with that on a daily basis. And when you deal with a guy like that on a daily basis and you see him and you've seen the greats come through here that have, and you've worked with them day in and day out, you can't help but compare and say, how the fuck is that guy like that? But you don't get many lucky guys like that. So
Nux, here's the deal on Max. I mean, he's the best goal scorer they had for a long time, and we said that he was able to score goals despite not having a number one centerman. And we said that he was their most clutch goal scorer, and we said that he was arguably the best player on their team. In terms of forwards, that is, of course, because you had PK on defense and you had Carey in goals, so he had some competition there. And we said that, and we said all the real things. We also said that Max was a perimeter player, which was also true, and we also said that Max was not a great captain, which was also true. And those things upset him. And look, if I was him, it would probably upset me too. But I mean,
it hurts.
We can like Max all we want, but at the end of the day, we got a job to do too. And we did it.
Well, it hurts. Listen, anytime people are going to talk negative about you, it's not a good feeling. But here's the deal, that's part of the show. And if people talk bad about you, well, do something about it. Do something about it. Sometimes you got to change. Listen, I went down the rabbit hole in life. I had some issues with alcohol and painkillers and drugs. And, I had to do something about it. And I did. I changed. I didn't only stop drinking and stop doing drugs. I changed a lot of things about me that I had to change when I was like that. So, and you got to get that message from someone. And if you don't take heed to that message and keep doing the same shit and being the same person, you're not going to have fun in life. It's not going to be a good life.
And you know what? To Max's credit, he did set up a foundation when he was here, and he did raise some money, and he did do some great things for some kids, which Nux, you used to do back in the day. And by the way, you haven't stopped. This was you, I believe, earlier today. Look at that.
That little guy, Idris, what a funny guy he was. Yeah,
you've made this a tradition, eh? Nux, going around.
Yeah, I do it every year. The last couple of years, I couldn't. Well, we did it, but we just came and dropped the presents in the lobby, and they distributed them. I couldn't go around. I love going around interacting with the kids. This little girl she was from Ghana. What a freaking sweetheart she was. And I talked with her for about 15 minutes, and she, knew nothing about hockey really. And she saw me on that picture I signed for her. I'm punching Tiger Williams' nose there, and his nose, and she couldn't believe it. She said, "Why were you doing that?" And I said, "Well, he was picking on some little people on my team. I had to straighten them out, and I ended up breaking his nose. And she said, yeah, it was so funny. And she was the cutest little kid. She was calling me Knuckles by the end. And listen, here's what I'm going to say. I went around to some people. I called Matthew Schneider from the Players Association. I called my friend Sunil from Habs Cave. Gary Milan, I called a friend of mine. Kevin Reason from the Liam Foundation, his son Liam, who I do a lot of work for. I'm a part of the foundation. I said, hey, I need some help getting gifts. Next thing, I got all these boxes showing up at my house with Barbie dolls and Captain Americas and all these more toys than you can imagine. And then Jamie,
amazing.
She put them in 70 bags, okay? There's probably about 6 toys in each bag. And then she made sure, I'm there, what are you doing, wrapping? Just put them all in the bag. She said, Craig, all kids love ripping presents open.
She's right.
She wrapped 70 gifts so kids were able to rip one open. Like, God bless her. Jamie worked her ass off for the last week. God love her.
Yeah,
every year she does it. She's there. She puts the time in. And not just throws everything in. It looks like, man, it's cool. It's like all my Knuckles gear she does. She wraps it nice, puts a card in, a thank you. It's done up nice. So
yeah,
God bless her. I love her. And
yeah, I'm sure you guys made those kids' day earlier today.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And Lord knows that and that they deserve to smile. You mentioned Sunil, by the way, Habs Cave. I know you've been down there before. He invited me, and I promised him that I'm going to go at some point. But I've seen the pictures and I've seen the video.
Tony,
Sunil's a Montreal Canadiens aficionado, like a diehard, and he's got a home in Saint Lazare. And his basement, he's made a Habs cave out of it. Nux, you were there. I've never been there. I just saw the picture of the video. I've never seen anything like it.
You'll drop. You're gonna be like, I was shocked. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you cannot believe what he has in his basement. Everything is Habs. You go in the bathroom, everything in the bathroom is Habs. The toilet paper, the pool table, the pinball machine, the shirts, goalie masks, full thing of Patrick White. It's the bar. It is unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Neil did an unbelievable job of it. You've got to see it. And let me know when you're going. Maybe I'll go with you if you want.
Yeah, and he usually basically has an event, probably give or take once a month, maybe twice, where he has some Habs alumni drop by and stuff like that. He has people come in. He's got it catered, and everyone gives an amount to charity, and they pick a different charity every time. So he's made something really positive out of it. He's giving money back to charity. It's an amazing, amazing thing. All right. You know what? I don't want to keep you much longer. So my question to you is, talk to us about the Raw Knuckles podcast. I mean, I mentioned before, anyone in this city with the Montreal Canadiens has been on already. The one guy that's missing is Jeff Molson. You said he's going to come on next week. Arber Xhekaj is dropping tomorrow. Who's your co-host, Nux, for those who aren't aware of him?
Tim Stapleton. Tim played, he's an American. He played in the NHL a bit in Winnipeg and Toronto. Played about 100 games in NHL. Smaller player, good little player. He played a lot over in Russia. He had quite an experience over there. He's a funny kid, nice kid. He's learning the game. He's coming along. I'll be honest, I think when I have some of the older guys on that I've had, sometimes guys you don't know, he's a little intimidated by it, right? You've been in the business long, you know how to carry yourself and stuff. And I think sometimes Tim, just defers to me a little too much. But when Tim is Tim, like he was with Arber Xhekaj the other day,
he was great.
Yeah, there's nobody funnier, and I need more of that from him, and I'll get it. I'm certainly, I've worked with him, and I'm trying to get more of Tim. And, I think, having the owner of the Montreal Canadiens on, it can be intimidating for some people. I don't give a shit. Jeff, how are you? What's going on? I'm going to talk to him like, he puts his pants on like I do. That's it. And, we're going to have a conversation. That's it. So Yeah, the podcast, again, a lot of fun and been good. Sunil, I've done a couple with his sister, one with Kevin Stevens, Anita Astley. She came on with me a couple times as kind of a guest host and stuff. So, I've got a couple other irons in the fire I'm looking at maybe doing. I've been approached by someone south of the border about doing something with them. A pretty big name in the sports world. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I know one thing. I'm going to keep doing the Raw Knuckles podcast. And if something else comes along, we'll see. We'll see.
Good stuff, Nux. Hey, say hi to Jamie for me. And when am I going to
Hi to Ange. Hey, Ange. And the kids. How's the World Cup? A little messy. When's that, Saturday?
Wait till you see.
Saturday?
Sunday at 10 a.m.
Sunday at 10.
So wait till you see Ange. She's dropped 72 pounds.
Oh.
In the last 7
catch up, Tony.
And that's but besides the other motivations, and one of them being that I'm probably gonna fall down and never come back.
You better be careful.
Big motivation. Yeah.
You better be careful. Anne's dropping 72. She might have a boyfriend there. You better catch up, buddy. You'll be in the hot tub playing with your caca. Right? You'll like Norman. So, but that's great. I'm glad for Ange. Now it's your turn. Oh, you got to see him. He's rolling off the chair, honey.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The beauty of a live podcast. He said it. I was just about to say, well, if Ange is going to kiss the boyfriend as much as she kisses me, I have absolutely nothing to worry about because nothing's going to happen. And then you pulled out the line with the spa. Oh, my God.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God, Nugs.
We've had a few of these laughs off the air, right? We've had a few of these laughs between little breaks there on Have Lunch, right? Remember those?
Oh, we had a lot of laughs during the break. We had a lot of laughs. How about when one of the guys that we worked with went into the fridge and he took your Red Bull?
Oh. Where'd you get that in the fridge? I said, you just take it. You just take someone's Red Bull? Oh, it was in there for weeks. Wow, I put it in there the fucking morning, you asshole. Oh.
Then he asked you.
And he had it open. You want it back? I want it back.
Yes, you want it back.
What's been on it? Oh, hello.
He goes, do you want it back? You're like, no. You wanted it so much, you can have it.
Yeah.
Then he left the studio and he said, you believe this effing guy?
Oh, shit. Anyway, no more. Hey, no more community fridge for me. I got my fridge right here.
Oh, my God. That was so funny, man. That was so funny. Listen, I would imagine you still keep in touch with Mitch, eh?
Yeah, I actually was at the game the other night. I was working for the Habs going around a bunch of boxes, and I went into truck and roll box with Ghislain Arsenault's box, and Mitch was in there with Steven Bronfman, and I sat and talked to them a little bit, shot the breeze.
Of course he was. They're still trying to bring back the Expos.
I hope, right?
Mitch is already getting ready for the Expos to come back. He's been talking about an hour a day for the last 3 years. He starts his show that way right after the 9-minute song.
Hey, build it and they will come. Sure. We'll see. That is funny. The 9-minute Bob Dylan song, you mean?
Yeah. Listen, but you know what? He too, I love him, man. He's true to himself. I mean, he does the kind of show that he wants to do, and he's gonna do it. And good for him, man. Good for him.
No, I love Melnick Show. I'll be honest. I don't listen to the station anymore. I never listened to the morning show. I have heard Gallo and Campbell, I think 1 or 2 times. I flipped it on when I was there. That was it.
I'm happy they got the opportunity, Nux.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
But I don't listen to it like I used when I was working there. I listened to it because, you know, you want to hear what guys are talking about, what they're doing, what you're talking about. I love listening to Mitch because he has really good conversations. And, you know, I love that the music is the theme of the show or what he's talking about, all that stuff. I think he's brilliant what he does.
He is brilliant. He is brilliant. Yeah.
But, you know, his show changed too. You know, Gallo gone there, I think, heard his show. Joey Alfieri gone from that show, heard his show, I think. Yeah, and I'm not saying Andy can't do a job, but it's just a different vibe with John Still and Andy, you know, than it was with Gallo and Alfieri.
So you take a hockey team, all right, and you take 5 or 6 players from a hockey team, and they leave or they're gone. It's not going to be the same hockey team because now all of a sudden you've lost your depth and you got to bring back a bunch of guys out of retirement to fill in because there's no more depth, or you have to go out and find new people. And it's hard to find new people, especially after you invested in helping develop those 5 or 6. And so,
Tom,
but listen,
Tom, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do a 4-hour show someday, you'll do one. But can you imagine having to do one every day?
Are you nuts? I'll stay home and pick up the phone from French radio and make more. And the conversation lasts 13 minutes.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Listen, I do miss the listeners, and
of course, they make the station, the listeners.
Yes, they do, and they were always there, and they supported us. And look, I would imagine you're the same way, Nux. But I mean, for me, the listeners were family, and I had like I had a special following. I found, stuff like that, and
you did.
I felt like when I left, I felt like I was leaving my family behind. I mean, I really had a bad weekend when I left because, I felt that I let some people down by actually leaving. And it's funny because a member of the Canadiens reached out to me, and I got pretty emotional on the phone. Like I told you, it doesn't take much for me. And I said, I feel like I'm letting people down. And he said, you're letting nobody down. You're thinking about you and your family. And that's who you have to think about first and foremost. And he says, anyone, who listens and stuff like that is going to be happy that you're thinking about you and your family and you're doing what you got to do. So
is that the guy who said that? Is that the guy you get all your scoops from?
I have a couple. Not as many as you. It's easier when you're Chris Nilan because you invite guys over for supper and they come over. I send a text message and I invite guys over for supper and nobody answers.
Did you ever hear me come up with a scoop on the radio? Never. I never do that. And I don't have a problem with people doing it. I just never do that. I could never call, hey, what's up? What's going on? I can't do that. I'm not just not me. But I don't blame you for doing it. You have that in. That's a good thing. Yeah. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And Jeremy must have been good to you.
I'll tell you a good one, Nux. I invited over a coach of CF Montreal years ago to come over, and we're exchanging text messages, and he said, yeah, I'm coming over. And I went out and I went to all the best places in Montreal, and I got mozzarella di bufala, and I got the best mortadella you can get, and the best prosciutto you can get, of course, and the best salami you can get, and the best capicola you can get. I got Parmigiano Reggiano, and I got everything. I went out and I knew that he liked his wine, so I went out and I bought like 4 major bottles of wine, like really, really. I went out. I think that day I spent about $650 or something like that, 600 or 650, right? I prepared the whole table and stuff like that. About half an hour before, he shoots me a text message. He goes, yeah, the snow's coming down and I can't get my car out of the garage or whatever, this and that. I don't think I can make it. So I called my buddies over. I said, come over, we're having supper. And they came over, and there was a table there that could have. So that's what happens, Nux. When I invite people over, they don't come over. When you invite them over, they come over.
Yeah, well, listen.
You're Chris Nilan. How do people say no to you? People can't say no to you. You're Chris Nilan, man. You're a legend in this city. I'm not a legend in this city. You are.
I had Jordan Harris, who played at Northeastern where I played, and we had met and talked, and he was on the podcast. And when I met these guys, I said, listen, you want to come for dinner one night, you're welcome. And, they said, God, I'd love to not eat in a restaurant one night. So, and then someone found out, Stu, I didn't want to be any part of the article, honestly, but now that it's out there, but they came for dinner. Jordan Harris wanted to do the goddamn dishes. Like, what a nice kid. No, I'm serious. Wow. He said, can I help with anything? Just a polite, really smart, good kid. He came with his girlfriend. Arber came. Arber, old school Arber. I love him. He had the big couch there to himself. His goddamn hands. Honestly, Tony, if I had his hands, I would have killed somebody.
My God.
God. With my punching power, if I ever had his hands, I got my mother's hands, right? And they're still pretty good goddamn hands. But
yeah,
if I ever had the size of his hands are so friggin' huge. It's crazy how big they are. And I would have broke jaws every night.
Yeah, George Larac's a regular collaborator on the show. He usually joins me on Thursdays. Mind you, he mixes it up every now and then. And he said at one point, like, he loves Arber. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah, he leads with his face, right?
Yeah, but he said there's a lot of things that he needs to be taught, like he finds that he leaves himself open. He finds he doesn't defend very well. And he said, man, I'd love to run into him one day and maybe offer up a tip or two. My big question to you tonight is, did you give him some tips? I
talked to him. Yeah. I ran into George at an autograph thing, and he said, you got to talk to Arber, putting his face in there, And I talked about a couple things, Here's the deal. I never grabbed guys up here because my arms were short. I didn't have long arms. Like most of the guys I fought had longer arms. Yeah, I grab them in here.
Yeah.
If Arber Xhekaj ever grabs a guy's a righty and he grabs him right in there, the guy is never going to hit him with a punch. And he gets his right free, the kid's done. And he's a tall kid, so he's got to plant a little bit better. He ends up on his heels. Like last 3 fights, he's fallen, right? Because he ends up back on his heels. He got to plant some, turn his head. He's got to lean in. Can't just do this all the time. Right? Listen, guys who stand in through all the time, that's great. And I've done it. But I would have never lasted in the league 13 years if I did that every night. I had to fight smart, and I did. I had to be a good defensive fighter, a good technical fighter, and then pick my spots. Start throwing uppercuts and taking away guys' strength. Not fighting the way they want me to fight. I'll fight the way I want to fight, and I was successful at it. I don't care. Did I knock a bunch of people out? No, but I knocked my share. But, did I get my ass kicked? No. I got nipped a couple times, a black eye here and there. Never broke my nose. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't break it anyway. It's all rubber. It's like rubber. It doesn't break.
In ending, you expect the Canadiens to make the playoffs this year? I know it's still early.
No, they don't.
No.
I don't. And I wouldn't expect them to. If they do, that's great. I don't even think they'll make it next year. I think they got another year of really, putting this thing together before they're going to make that next jump to be a real consistent, good couple years. Because, listen, they got a couple first rounders this year. It's going to take time, right?
Yeah.
This core they have, you want to add to it, but they got to do it right. They can't afford to getting the free and the signing and that. They got to build this thing through the draft and do it right. They have to have a good team down in Laval. They never had a goddamn good team in the American League the whole time Bergeron was here, right? They didn't.
Yeah, I think when was it? Last year they had a pretty good team, but you're right that by that time he was gone. You're right. Look, I have a lot of confidence in this management team. I really, really like them, and I'm going to tell you this: I don't know when it's going to happen. And I don't know how long they're going to be here. And I might, I'm probably going to end up sounding like a fool one day. I think Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes are going to win a Stanley Cup here one day. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I really do believe that they will. Look, Marc Bergevin was here for 9.5 years. It leads me to believe that Gordon and Hughes can be here for at least 9.5 years. So we got some time here. I think they're going to win the Cup, Nux. I don't know when, but that's how much confidence I have in them.
Yeah.
Vinny LeCavalier, Marty St. Louis, they surrounded themselves with good people. Adam Nicholas, the skills coach. They've enhanced their analytics department. They've hired a few more scouts. I got a good feeling, Nux. I got a good feeling.
I do too, Tone. Things are looking good, and I really I like what they're doing too. They're good people. They're good people. You got these guys coming on my podcast. You never had this before. You got guys being able to go and talk to the media and talk to whoever they want. They don't treat them like, they lock them up and stay away from there. Don't say this. Don't do that. I think a lot has to do with Chantal Maccabee, obviously. But, I think they treat these guys like young men, too, I remember back in our day, and I know it wasn't social media and all that, but, you could talk to whoever you wanted to talk to. Now it's like they protected people so much, like stay away, don't say this, don't say that. And I get it. It can be a little much here, but still, you got to let guys have some rope too. And I think they're doing that. It's a whole different outlook here, a whole different feeling, honestly.
Yeah, I got a good feeling about them, and I got a good feeling about the Raw Knuckles podcast, Nux. Keep it up. I look forward to being on at some point here.
Awesome.
You have amazing guests. You're my favorite podcast outside of mine, obviously. And look, people want us to do this regularly. I know you're busy, and I know that's probably not going to happen, but can we do it semi-regularly, you think, every now and then?
Hey, don't put pressure on me on the air, okay? I'll kick your ass.
All right. I know.
I'm going to see. We'll talk on the phone.
Okay.
I'm going to call you. We'll talk on the phone, and we'll see what we can do. We'll figure it out.
We're not going to, knowing that you want to kick my ass, we're not going to meet up for sure. I'd rather be on the phone.
It will be on the phone.
Listen, are you going to be around during the holidays, or are you going to Boston?
Well, I'm going to Boston and to see my kids and grandkids, and my mom's not well. She's got dementia still.
Yeah.
Well. And then January, I'm heading to Hawaii with Jamie to see her mom, and we got to take care of some stuff there at the house. So
I hear you.
We're going there for the month of January, and that's another thing. I can do the podcast from Hawaii.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you're right about that. Hey, I hope to see you before Christmas. I'll come over and I'll bring a panettone, and for you it'll be cool. I'll wear my Santa Claus hat, and for you it'll be your first chance to see Santa Claus.
Hey, listen, here's the deal. You're gonna lose that weight. You know what? Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Leave the fucking panettone at home. Okay.
All right.
Because here's the deal. Listen to this. My buddy Paulo Venna, right? He's a jeweler downtown. I love him.
Yeah.
He brought me a panettone over one day, right?
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
We opened the panettone up. There was a slice gone out of it.
Oh no.
So I called him. I said, Paulo, what's this? You sent me someone's panettone? He said, what do you mean? I said, there was a slice gone. He said, no way. I took a picture. I said, I swear it came that way. I didn't eat it. I never took a bite of a panettone. I don't know if I can after seeing that.
Panettones obviously is our tradition. It's kind of like, I don't know how you call it, but it's
like a cake, right?
It's like a bread cake. It's like a cake without being a cake or whatever, but it's kind of like a square or whatever it is. They have different shapes. But us Italians, that usually is the first thing that goes in the gift basket or the Christmas basket. But you know what the running gag is, is that there's only one panettone in the world that goes from house to house to house to house.
Yeah, just passing it on. How's mom and dad? All right.
They're doing good. They're doing good. Yeah, no complaints. We're all doing good, Nux. We're all doing good. So
good stuff.
I'm happy to hear you're doing good. I know everyone appreciated it, Nux. And once again, the Raw Knuckles podcast. Support my buddy, and I don't have to beg you to watch the podcast because it's really, really good. I really believe. Chris, as much as I like you on radio, I really believe that you're in your element with the podcast. I really believe that because people have a chance to see you. You're very personable. These conversations last for over an hour. You're a great storyteller. And when you're working on radio and segments are 13 or 14 minutes and then you're out for 6 or 7, it's hard to get into these stories. You can do it with podcasts. You're doing it with Raw Knuckles. I think you're extremely engaging. I love it. I'm a big fan.
Thanks,
Mark. Thanks, Knuckles. Have a good day, buddy.
All right, pal. Be good.
Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good day. Yeah. Hey, maybe next time we'll do it in my spa.
Yeah. With our caucus.
See you, Nux.
See you, Tom.
All right. There you have it. Chris Knuckles Nilan. Nilan, number 30, a legend in the city. And I hope you appreciated that. Never a dull moment with Nux. And that's, we worked together for a long time. And, he and I didn't talk today. We didn't talk about what we're going to talk about. We didn't rehearse anything. And his show used to be called Off the Cuff. And that's what it is. It's an off-the-cuff conversation. He tells you what he thinks. I tell you what I think. We went back and forth. We don't hold back. We give our opinions. And I miss working with him. I really do. I miss being with him in a studio. This for me was therapy tonight to see Nux and talk with Nux. It really was. It was therapy. I think we had something magical together, and I hope you felt it tonight. Nux wants me to lose weight, so a shout out to matrixhomefitness.ca because they're going to be helping me as well as this intermittent fasting that I'm doing. I fasted for over 22 hours today. Bring it home. Discover a club quality workout in the comfort of your own home. Visit matrixhomefitness.ca, and I have the treadmill, and then Yellow has the elliptical, and I have the rower as well. And that helps because, doing the intermittent fasting is one thing, but if you can add exercise to it, obviously you can lose the weight even faster. You called. It's now that time.
You called. Presented by Playground.
Playground, your premier gaming destination located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. The number to call is 1-888-585-7425. Hey, you can talk about the Montreal Canadiens. You could talk about the 3-2 loss versus the Ottawa Senators. You could talk about the Canadiens playing their worst period of the season thus far, being outshot 16-3 in period number 2 and surrendering 3 goals to Pinto, to Batherson, and Tkachuk. Or you could talk about my conversation with Knuckles. You can talk to me about Knuckles, your favorite Knuckles story. And you saw him today at the Children's Hospital. God love him, bringing the toys and bringing the gifts and stuff like that. That guy is, he's very special to me. Always has been. And I had a Chris Nilan jersey growing up, and there's not too many Canadiens jerseys I had. I had a Guy Lafleur jersey. I had a Chris Nilan jersey, and don't ask me why, but I had a Brent Gilchrist jersey. Actually, I will tell you why. I was alone at a practice once. I was at a practice, and Brent Gilchrist was alone on the ice. I think he had a broken hand or stuff like that. And so, I was there, and I sat on the bench, and it was just him and I, and we had a great conversation. And I said, I want to support a really good guy. And I thought he was an underrated player. I thought he had pretty good hands, actually. And so I went out and I got his jersey too. But I had Chris Nilan's jersey when I was in high school, and it's funny because I remember one day, and I've said this story before. I wasn't a tough guy by any means. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I was a sore loser when we played sports. That I can tell you. Like everything I do, I want to win, and when I don't, I lose my mind. And we played a Cosm hockey game or stuff like that, and we lost. It got eliminated. And somebody teased me after, and I said something back, or I threw something at him, and he went to put his hands on my jersey, and we took it outside in the hallway, and we went at it. And I was fighting exactly like Knuckles, clutching and grabbing, and the shirt over and stuff like that. And I was wearing my Nilan jersey. And then it got broken up, and I got sent to the principal's office, and I was scared to death that I was going to get suspended from school because my parents weren't going to be very happy with me. And I looked at the principal and I said, I don't fight. Like, I'm not a troublemaker. I've never had a fight in my life, type of thing. And he looked at me and he said, "You're wearing a Chris Nilan jersey, and you're going to tell me that you don't fight? You never had a fight in your life?" And I think he felt sorry for me because he didn't suspend me. All right. Okay. Why don't we get to your calls? Who do we have here? We went a little bit longer today, but hey, it was Chris Nilan. Jack is in Saint Hippolyte. Jack, you there?
Jacques Lechapelle.
Hey, Jacques, comment vas-tu?
Hey, ça va bien, toi?
Ça va très bien.
Excuse-moi, je te parle en français ce soir.
Non, ça me dérange pas du tout. Comment ça va, toi?
Ça va très bien. Écoute, je regardais ton podcast ce soir avec Chris Nilan.
Oui.
Oh, that's great. That's a great guy, you know.
Hey, je viens de voir, tu m'as envoyé un message sur Facebook Messenger. Hey, Tony, tu as du plaisir avec Nilan, Chris Nilan. Nice podcast. Oui. J'ai eu énormément de plaisir avec lui. I had a lot of fun with Chris. We had a lot of fun working together, and now tonight we had a lot of fun on the podcast, and we have a lot of fun when we hook up. And I hope we can continue to have fun together. You know.
Yeah, I know, but I listened to GC, you know, and this afternoon it's the same thing, you know. But with him, you're a good guy anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I like to have fun. I'm very blessed. I'm doing something that I love. And right now I actually think like I got the best of both worlds because I'm doing radio with Jean-Charles in the morning on Premier Compteur at BPM Sports Radio, La Radio Sportive du Québec, Quebec's #1 all sports radio station. I'm doing television with Jean-Charles, GC at TVA Sport. So I'm on Monday to Friday on radio. I'm on Monday to Thursday on television. I host a podcast Monday to Thursday night. I'm doing work in French. I'm doing work in English. I'm trying to bring people together. I made the move. I thought I was up for the challenge. It's going well. I'm having I'm having fun. You're right. I'm having fun. I love it. I feel blessed, Jacques. I feel blessed.
Yeah. You're a gentleman, my friend. Yeah, I love you. Anyway.
Well, I'm not perfect by any means. You know, there's a few things I'd like to change, but I appreciate you telling me that. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Okay. You have a good night, my friend.
Okay. Merci beaucoup. There you have it. Jacques Lachapelle in Saint-Hippolyte, who sent me a message on my Facebook Messenger. Bruno's in Windsor. Bruno, how are you?
Good. Hey, this is the first time I'm on your show.
Welcome.
Listen, the reason why I called is because you and Chris have to somehow come up with, at least once a week together. You know, I really miss both of your shows. You know, it's been a while since you've been on. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening to everything you're saying, and I'm taking it all in. I just had a sip of water. And
about your mouse.
the mouse.
You had a dead mouse behind your couch. Your kids did that to you.
No. The kids didn't do it. I actually made a joke that they were watching the Canadiens. They were probably bored to death because that's when the Canadiens were boring. They're not boring anymore. I have to tell you that fix my mouse problem, and I'm not going to give away his family name because then the whole city's going to call him to go in but my buddy Joe said that at one point mice drove him crazy. So he did all the research in the world and he said, Tony, you know how to get rid of mice? And I said, yeah, an exterminator. He says, I got something better. And I said, what? He says, well, if the exterminator is going to fix the problem, Tony, they're not going to make any more business because they're never going to come back. I said, Joe, what are you telling me? He says, let me come to your house. So he came and he basically came back a couple of times, took a look at the whole house, saw what needed to be patched up and all the holes that needed to be closed up. And he said, they're coming in from here, here. We're going to close them up. And if they ever get back in your house, they won't be able to get out type of thing. And so Joe is a lifesaver. But thank you for saying what you said about Knuckles. Once again, I can't speak for him. I'd love to.
I have the same problem with my house, with the mice.
Yeah.
And they multiply so fast.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This little Victor trap, and it had like a big yellow flap on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a big
yeah.
And I just put a little dab of peanut butter on it.
Yeah.
And I loaded it every night for about 8 days.
Yeah.
I got one mouse. After the 8th day, they're gone.
Well, that never worked for me. Hey, Bruno, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. And thanks for the kind words once again. Like Nuck said, I can't speak for him, but he would make, he'd be a great addition to the podcast. And I know I can help him out on his. And look, we want to help each other. We do want to help each other, and we're going to see how we can make it happen. He and I will have a chat, and we'll. I enjoyed this tonight. I think he did too, obviously, based on everything I'm reading from everyone on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live. I'm sure a lot of people did as well, which is kind of cool. So if you like the podcast, hit the like button. If you're watching it on Facebook and you want to share it with your friends. And if you're going to be listening on Google, Spotify, or Apple, leave us a 5-star review. We'd very much appreciate it. Pierre is in Alberta. Pierre, thanks for calling the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro. What's going on?
Hey, Tony, how are you tonight, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just listened to the show. What a show, man. That was awesome.
We had fun. We had a lot of fun, just like old times. Just like old times.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah,
hey, Tony, yeah. I'm here in. I live in Calgary, and I wanted to talk to you about Sean Monahan because when you guys picked him up this summer, I was really, really happy about that. I think he is a quality person, and to bring him in, I think was a great move. Now I know he's probably going to get traded at the deadline, but what are your thoughts of maybe him coming back as a free agent?
That rarely happens, eh? I don't have the stats in front of me, but a player being traded and coming back and re-signing. Remember when Kulak got traded to Edmonton? A lot of us said, yeah, you know what? He has a chance of coming back and re-signing. Remember when Sherratt got traded to Florida? Yeah, he has a chance of coming back and re-signing. It just doesn't happen. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it would be nice if it would this time. I think he's a great person. Not only a great player, but a great person. And I think you want to surround yourself with quality individuals like that.
Thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. It's now time to go for gold.
Go for gold. A daily World Cup report.
Alfonso Davies keeps it himself. Goal!
Presented by Bijouterie Boston.
Alfonso Davies.
Nux talked to you about his jeweler before. I'll talk to you about my jeweler now. Jenny Dioris Go for Gold is brought to you by Bijouterie Bassi. Bijouterie Bassi has provided professional service and fine jewelry for over 30 years. Visit the store at 9640 Boulevard Saint-Michel in Montreal. You can call them at 514-387-9528. The Cinderella story is over, but man, oh man, did they really open up our hearts. And I'm talking about Morocco, who fell by a score of 2-0 to France earlier today in the semifinal. But they were great. I mean, they conceded an early goal less than 5 minutes into the game. And then it looked like they were battling nerves at the beginning. We should also point out that there's one of their defenders that had to declare forfeit like 5 minutes before the game. There's another defender that had to declare forfeit about 20 minutes into the game. They're already down one, so now they're down three of their regular defenders. They gave everything they could in this tournament. And they really, you know what? After battling nerves for the first 30 minutes or so, they really poured it on. But unfortunately, they weren't able to equalize. Mind you, France had their share of chances as well. Giroud hit a post, and they came close on a couple of occasions. In the end, the team that had a little bit more depth and more talent won the game. Congratulations to France. Very deserving winners. But Morocco, you captured my heart. You played with heart and determination, and you had great results. What a great World Cup for you. And, you made your mark and you made a lot of people proud. So that's it. So now there's 2 games left at the World Cup. We're going to find out who's going to win third place between Croatia and Morocco. And then Sunday morning at 10 a.m., here you have it. This is the big one. It's the World Cup final. It's France versus Argentina. It's Mbappe versus Lionel Messi. France back-to-back in the final. They clearly are the favorites for this game. A lot of people think they're going to win it. A lot of people think Argentina's only hope is Lionel Messi. It might be a lot, but if there's one guy I wouldn't bet against in soccer, it would be him. Thanks for watching, everyone. To you, my sick army, you are the best viewership, the best listeners. You've been with me for 20 years, and I hope you're going to be with me for another 20. What a pleasure it was to be reunited with my buddy, Chris Knuckles Nilan. Tell your buddies about the Sick Podcast. Tell them the host and the podcast. It's sick. Why? Because I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different, 8.6, intense by nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.